It was a creed written into the founding documents that declared the destiny of a nation. Yes, we can. It was whispered by slaves and abolitionists as they blazed the trail toward freedom. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
It was sung
by immigrants as they struck out to the shores, pioneers who pushed westward against the unforgiving wilderness. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
It was the call of workers to organize, women who reached for the ballots, a president who chose the moon as our new frontier,
and a king who took us to the mountaintop and pointed the way to the promised land.
Yes, we can to justice and equality.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we
can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can to opportunity and prosperity.
On the 13th of December 2018, beaming from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network, the title of our episode, the 2018 Farm Bill. We'll take a look at it, and some will say, why are you taking a look at the Farm Bill? We're taking a look at the Farm Bill because all of the citizens of the United States consume organic and not organic foods, and the country as a whole has an interest in the proper nutrition, or at least nutrition, of all of its citizens. And the Farm Bill covers a number of things except farming. It covers the SAP program, or the food sufficiency, known as food stamps, very big important part of it, and the reason why it has been held up. We'll get into that, what it encompasses, such things as farmers markets, etc., encouraging those, and we'll also look at some of the think tanks, and we're appreciative here of various publications. The Washington Post brought a new one, Mathematica here, and of course we have one that we have used for many, many years, Dr. Green Stein here. This is the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. We'll get to his statement in a minute here. We'll first start out in AGweek, is a publication here, and the title here is by Jeannie, Snatcher, I suppose, is the name anyway. This is written on the 12th of December. Most in agriculture applaud the passage of the Farm Bill. Farm groups and officials and upper Midwest members of Congress were quick to cheer the passage of the Farm Bill by the House. That was on a Wednesday. The bill on Tuesday passed the Senate 87-13, and with a 369-47 in the House. And now it goes to DJ Trump. Colin Peterson, he's from Minnesota, was one of the main architects of the Agriculture Improvement Act, that's what it's called, of 2018, as he served as the ranking member of the Agriculture Committee. In a statement Wednesday afternoon, Representative Peterson pointed out improvements for dairy farmers, permanent funding for local food and farmers market promotion programs, value-added producer grants, and the BFRD program, organic research, and the Section 2501 outreach program. Don't know what that is. As he said on the floor, rural America is facing many challenges, and this bill goes a long ways towards providing a needed clarity to farmers and ranchers. I encourage DJ Trump to sign the bill. The American Agriculture Coalition called Peterson, along with Senator Roberts of Kansas, Debbie Stabenow of Michigan, and Michael Conway of Texas. Agriculture-oriented leaders. Peterson chairs the Senate Agriculture Committee, on which Stabenow is the ranking member, and Conway chairs the House Committee. That's kind of interesting there. The Dairy Farmers Coalition appreciates the bipartisan effort that resulted in the advancement of the Farm Bill. The passage of the Farm Bill is a great step in the right direction, but much more needs to be done. Usually the statements there: farmers facing financial crisis as a result of low milk prices. That's been going on for a while. The impact of retaliatory tariffs on dairy products. Senator Havin, I suppose, who serves on the Agriculture Conference Committee, is the chair of the Senate Ag Appropriation Committee, chaired the bill. This is the first time since 1990 Congress has passed a farm bill before the end of the calendar year. We did it with a broad bipartisan support and by building on the strength of both the Senate and House versions there. Kramer, a Republican from North Dakota, will now be a senator, served on the conference committee, credits constituents' comments for getting the policy initiatives into the bill. The House and Senate quick action have passed the conference report ensures that farmers and ranchers in rural America is the certainty and stability, and that's very much a key. Sonny Perdue, he is the Ag Secretary, in a statement said, provides a safety net for farmers and ranchers, and he encouraged the President to sign it. Perdue was not without complaints about the bill handling of several what he calls hot button issues, while I feel there were missed opportunities in forest management and forest mismanagement, and improve work requirements for certain supplemental nutrition assistance recipients. The bill does include several helpful provisions, and we will continue to build upon them. Zappy Devon, I suppose, president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, said the bill's passage is welcome news. Passage means we have one signature away from a renewal of risk management tools and foreign market development, environmental stewardship programs that farmers and ranchers have. And this is from the agricultural, and he goes on to Josh Sewell, a senior policy analyst for Taxpayers for Common Sense, called the bill a step back on efforts to ensure that farm safety net programs are focused on actual farmers. Now, there are some things in there, and we'll get to those in the second here. And this is more from the ag thing. This is a 5-year program, incidentally, that they passed. And the outcome in the House marked a sharp contrast from the last version of the bill that was before the House. No Democrats voted for that bill, and you tighten the requirements for SAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Although it's certainly as a partisan effort, it was enacted as the bipartisan effort that is from Jimmy Panetta of California, a Democrat, seeking to win over Republican colleagues. The House Agriculture Chairman Conway said he did what he could to reform the program, SAP, and forest management policies, two issues where he faced stiff resistance from Senate Democrats. Unfortunately, I had to make a decision between making as many inroads and reforms as we can. And one of the unfortunate situations here, they did not bar the Trump administration from imposing its own administrative requirements. The Farm Bill will help producers make decisions about the future while also investing in important agricultural research and supporting trade programs to boost exports. While I feel there were missed opportunities here in forest management and work requirements, that is from Purdue, the Democrats, including 4 members of the Ag Committee, voted for the rule, preventing it from failing. 18 Republicans voted against it. Now, the rule for debating the passage, only 3 votes, passed by only 3 votes, 206 to 203, with most Democrats voting against it because of unrelated provisions that precluded the House from taking a vote in relation to this is the war in Yemen. The passage of the compromise bill was never in doubt, but there were other problems there that the Republicans might again face embarrassment when on the bill. The uncertainty over the rule harkened back to May. Now this is again one of the extra things here that come in from the Rules Committee. Sessions of Texas signal some flexibility ahead of the rule vote, promising that the Yemenis issue could be revisited next week. The ranking Democrat on the Rules Committee, that's our own Representative Jim McGovern, urged his colleagues to oppose the rule but voted for the bill. McGovern, who is also the ranking member on the House Agricultural Nutrition Committee, Jim's done a very good job there, is one of the more outspoken critics of SAP reform, and then one man also Sheila Jackson Lee. Let me go back to the Washington Post here, and this is not binding on the White House. This is from the Washington Post. The Trump administration has signaled its intention to cut food stamps without the approval from Congress. The Farm Bill does not bind the White House hands, according to Congressional Aid. The Agriculture Department has always floated, weakening the waiver it gives to states to temporarily suspend some food stamp work requirements. Some expanded subsidies here. Now, this is the giveaway to people that expanding agriculture subsidies to nieces, nephews, and first cousins, even though the relations don't directly work on the farm. Remember, there was a piece several years ago. Sam Donaldson, he lives in Arizona, had a sheep farm. Evidently, he was into that and got a subsidy. A big brouhaha about that. Now Sam's relatives can get the same subsidy. Let's see, the impact of the deficit, $1 trillion a year. The Farm Bill's price tag is higher, but the bill's draft has said the baseline set by the Congressional Budget Office on the existing spending levies of $867 billion over the next 10 years mean it will not increase the federal budget. Now, we talked about the local programs in the final bill. Congress would fund on a temporary basis 5 years at a time. They include promotion funds for the farmers markets, research for organic farming, monies for organizations. Now, this is some of what has happened here. Now let us move on to the Center for Budget Priorities and Policy. This is Dr. Greenstein here. Released the following statement: the nutrition provisions of the Farm Bill that the conference committee released last night ensures that millions of struggling families and individuals will continue to be able to count on SAP to help them put food on the table. This is a key part of the Farm Bill and has long been the nation's most powerful and effective anti-hunger program. The agreement would also encourage and prioritize approaches for job training and other employment-related activities that are proven to be successful by finding more employment and training pilot programs than the 2014 bill. The conference agreement rejected the House's cuts in the SAP program. We won't go over that. We'll finish this up here. However, the conference agreed that SAP provisions are not entirely without flaws. They include a provision that would end bonuses. Now, this is one thing most people don't know: bonuses to states to demonstrate significant improvements in the operation of the program. It does not include changes that would strengthen access for those who face difficulties participating. Wait just a minute here. Such as seniors and people with disabilities, plural. It also doesn't address the problem of some SAP households running low on or out of food at the end of each month. But the committee represents a solid bipartisan effort. The SAP program helps 1 in 8. That's a lot of people, Americans, there. So, although it didn't address some things, and let's get to the, this is Mathematica research policy here. SAP benefits would decrease substantially for some households receiving energy assistance under certain provisions of the Farm Bill, but increase modestly for working households. Between 800,000 and 1.1 million households receive SAP benefits in 2017 would experience a $50 to $75 cut in monthly benefits on the certain provisions of the House bill. The Improvement Act of Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, the provision would reduce benefits substantially for 3 to 5% of the households, an average of $10 for about 20% of the households, or about 4 million. The findings are part of an analysis by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, a foundation that does very good work. Among the households would have their benefits restricted on the provision, 79 to 84% of households include children, 76 to 80%, 600,000 to 900,000 live in poverty. The only provision involving a utility expense was enacted. The percentage of those households living in poverty when considering income plus SAP benefits would increase from 65% to 68 to 71%. SAP has a long and successful history of providing temporary help to reduce food insecurity, help families advance self-sufficiency, reduce health disparities. Many senior program offices, any reforms including food security and financial security and quality diets. Now, the heating part and cooling standard allowance requirements under current law, SAP households with high housing expenses related to their incomes are entitled to income deducted base in part on rent, mortgages, utility costs. As many states use a standard utility allowance to streamline the process, including higher SUAs. The heating and cooling is calculated deduction if the household receives energy assistance, which many do. Contains provisions to permit this process for households that include a senior or a person with disabilities, but not for other households. Now, earning deduction on the current law, working households may deduct a portion of their income, earnings, from income to receive a higher benefit. Would increase the earning deduction from 20% to 22%. An example, a typical 3-person household receives $346. We talked about this in the Indiana example we had in benefits in 17 under the increase in earnings deduction of households. Monthly SNAP benefit would climb to $357, an increase of 32%. By contrast, under a more restrictive energy assistance rule, the household's benefit would drop between 197 to 246, a decline between 29 and 43%. The value of this analysis, we estimate the potential effects of each division separate or in combination, the number of households as well as their benefits. That's from the mathematic senior research person there, Cunningham, Karen Cunningham. We hope that the new data will help inform public and policymakers the potential changes to the Farm Bill. The analysis is the second in a series examining the impact of changes. About 1 in 11 households eligibility change to countable resources, the elimination of broad-based categories estimates there. So there will be evidently some mathematical uncertainties involving here. Now, this is again the House and Senate version of the bill. The House version, the Improvement Act, would, amongst other things, change how agencies determine total benefits for households. Specifically, the bill would change the way in which agencies account for earning and housing expenses. The Senate version levels were untouched, and now this is part of what was going on here. Let me look at the date on this. Oh, this is back in November. All this has changes, so just disregard that. And here we go again. Now this is for seniors is important here. This is 16 to 19. The research team is identifying. Now this is something that is ongoing here with these people. So the mathematical people are subcontractor in a policy situation here. Anyway, let's change up. Let me just look at our time here. Okay, we're going along pretty well here. We'll switch to Colin Kaepernick and his struggles of the infamous people in Washington there, their football team, decided to shun him. They went through a number of quarterbacks with no appeal. The same situation is with the team in Minnesota that spent millions of dollars and got nowhere. But what the Post article does bring up here is, let me just get a date on this. Laura Smith, this is on the 12th. She's writing here. Of course, Naki put Colin into a campaign, and it netted him $6 billion. At the zenith of his career, Muhammad Ali, the great one, controversial reputation, being drafted as a soldier. That was in 1968. Also led to his exclusion from boxing for 3 years. Loss of his title. The consequences are there. He didn't get a lot of commercial endorsements until later in life, after he'd long since retired, whereas Orenfeld, James Simpson, and Michael Jordan were determinedly apolitical, focusing on reaping great financial rewards, particularly Jordan. And we're back to Howard Bryant's book. I have it, but the Black Athletes that Divided America and the Politics of Patriotism. The 70s saw athletes win out over their political stance. He points out there, O.J. in 1975 was the first African-American spokesman for Hertz Rent-A-Cars. He was a pioneer. That's the reason we gave him the title of the All-American Hero. His success helped catalyze a shift in which athletes moved to capitalize on this era of new financial opportunities, causing people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is still around, to lose out. And Brian describes athletes like OJ and Jordan as greenwashed, cleansing of anything related to discussion of racial inequality. Well, OJ made up for that, no doubt about it, in the trial of the century. And the trial was all about race from day one. Michael Jordan, the only thing Michael Jordan said, he's with his shoe deals, he was not trying to sell the people in the hood. Well, Jordan was the face of Nike. He snugged off, pressure to support African-American Democratic Senate candidate in North Carolina. Republicans buy his shoes too, he said. And Jordan's comment came at the same time Jesse Jackson was spearheading a boycott of Nike, which is very successful, incidentally. In the years since 9/11 have reaffirmed sports and corporate aversion to activism and risks until literally the protests that Colin Kaepernick led. And this year we haven't seen very much of that. Football players are backed up, but they did write history. Period. And the same thing with Jackie Robinson, etc. Jackie Robinson spoke out in his waning days. The bullpit of Tricky Dicky and DJ Trump now stand in opposition to the all and mighty dollar of Nike, one of the largest corporate apparel makers in the country. So this is something to understand. And incidentally, before we go into sport, here comes Jose Canseco. He said he could, he's 54 now, he could take over the job at the White House as the chief of staff there. And, of course, obviously he mentioned the person best for that job is Jose himself. Period. Yeah, that's not to be denied there. There was one other thing. Oh, yeah. Apple. Apple is building campuses also. A $1 billion campus in Texas, in Austin, Texas. And we need to keep our eyes on this because we were just talking about job creating, etc., training, etc. And we advise all young people to take advantage of job training programs, particularly in so-called high tech, where people are learning to program, and they have, certain programs for workers, etc., to train them in what's called coding. And those that succeeded actually got coding jobs. It's not a difficult situation, but what we do advise for young people is make certain that you do your math courses in high school. If you're out of high school, do a math course, at least a statistics course or an algebra course. You can get those on YouTube. You can get it from Concierge. You can get it at any community college, etc., just to have a working knowledge. Now, you're not going to be a mathematician. Let's see, this is in North Austin, Texas, another $10 billion for new data centers over the next 5 years. Well, that's speculative there. We talked about some of that in the Kentucky situation. Sometimes that comes up, sometimes it doesn't. The announcement followed a promise by them in January to invest $30 billion. That's nothing in the U.S. They have, 133-acre campus in Austin, the second largest number of workers outside of their headquarters in Cupertino, California. And let's see, it will first house 5,000 workers. Apple also has setups in, of course, obviously in Seattle, San Diego, Culver City, California, and in Pittsburgh, in New York, and Boulder, Colorado, the next 5 years. So they'll be expanding. They included, 6,000 workers to be hired over 1,000 workers at Culver City and San Diego. So, in other words, Amazon, all these places are gearing up to put their establishments in, but the problem there is how inclusive they will be in communities, particularly communities that are covered by SAP. What happens when you get these high-tech operations in, they push people out of affordable housing, so thus they will get their SAP allotments, but they probably would be on the streets. And those are some things that need to be taken care of. And the other part of the equation is food that is healthy, organic food. There should always be a discount there, an incentive for people to buy that food, and it's usually more expensive than the run-of-the-mill, I say run-of-the-mill, that you buy at the common markets. Although they may have a section for quote-unquote organic foods, and again, that we don't get into that one, and nutrition counseling. So in other words, there must be a holistic approach in all of this, no doubt about it. We have, of course, coming up here tomorrow morning, the Friday Jobber. We've had that going for over 10 years now. And on the weekend, the week that was, we review the findings of the week. And on Monday morning, the Monday morning quarterback. And in between there, we'll be talking about the economy on our Numbers Man presentation, the week in economics. And hopefully we'll get another open source report up. We have one up, the open source report. So we've been working on a few things around here. Let's go to NBA scores. This was on last night. The Pistons were at the Hornets. Hornets 108 to 107, a 1-point game. The Knickerbockers were in Cleveland. The Cavaliers 113 to 105. The Bucks were in Indiana. Pacers 113 to 97. The Nets of New Jersey were in the city of brotherly love. The score 127 Nets, 114 76ers. And in overtime, the Celtics were at the Warriors. Were at the Wizards in D.C. Nonetheless, Celtics 130 to 125. The Trailblazers of Portland were at the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies 92 to 83. The Thunder of OKC were at the Pelicans in the Big Easy. It was the Pelicans 118 to 114. The Hawks and the Mavericks in Dallas. Mavericks 114 to 107. The Heat and Jazz. Jazz 111 to 84. The T-Wolves and Kings in California. It was Kings in 141 to 130. The Raptors and Warriors. It was the Raptors 113 to 93. The National Hockey League. Who is where? The Golden Knights, 3-2 over the Islanders. The Penguins, we don't hear from them that much anymore. 3-6 over the Blackhawks of Chicago. The Flyers and the Flames. In overtime, let me just make sure I got this right. Flames 6-5, and the Stars and the Anaheim Ducks. It's the Anaheim Ducks 6-3 is the final there. Yeah, let me just make sure. Okay, well, forget it. Anyway, nonetheless, we got a few things hanging around here we'll have to get to later. Self-driving cars. This is a Google enterprise here, and they're actually driving cars in Arizona. These are self-driving cars, a rideshare service. This is Waymo, which is Google. This is the Phoenix. Has successfully launched their tests in the ride program. Fiat Chrysler Automotive invested $30 million in upgrading its Chelsea proving ground to test what's called autonomous vehicles. Waymo also bought over 60,000 Chrysler Pacifica hybrid units for the fiat automated situation there. And they'll move this on to California. So there's a lot of things going on out there in the changing of work. One of the things we talk about here, and we invite young people to start taking advantage of some of these opportunities. The community colleges are very good, a stepping stone at least. And also Concierge. The MIT has many of their courses online, so there are many ways that you can get an introduction to various things, including math. That's one of the things you need to do. Algebra is there, so is calculus, and there are many videos on all types of programming. Particularly, you want to look at some of the Google stuff with Android. You can download some of their software and take it for a spin, find out what's going on with it. There are also the meetups. There are all kinds of meetups out there. And what Amazon is up to. You don't have to be limited and go out and say get a burger job. Now, I'm not saying against getting a burger job. You can get a burger job to sustain yourself, but you need to move beyond that particular situation. And that is one of the things that you see more of. And that these programs and so-called policy will actually turn to reality. But you don't give bonuses to people just to pass numbers along. Because many times these numbers are depriving people of functional income. And training programs that are really training programs. I remember once seeing a training program, literally was a training program funded by someone to teach people how to stand out with a highway sign. That's farcical. Or some other goofball programs that are meaningless and just following the program. Anyway, that will do it for us, and no doubt will do it for my voice. We'll see you on the Monday morning quarterback. This has been the 2018 Farm Bill, a quote-unquote bipartisan effort. And one thing to note, this was the best they could do, and many things now is the best they can do. Incidentally, Nancy Pelosi, I keep saying that, has worked out in agreement with some of her detractors, where she can get the speakership, move on, and promised to leave in 2 years, or what 2 years is in Washington is like an eternity. 100 years, we don't know what will happen. Within 2 years, we have no idea at all. And even though George Will is pushing Sherrod Brown, he is a senator from Ohio, just got reelected, had very good numbers. We put it up on Facebook, and you can look at that. He's from the Appalachian part, I think we said that. And he did better than DJ Trump in the counties that he needed to do better in.